February 12th, 2020. Could you please stand and say the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to thank everybody for being here. I'm going to stand. We're going to take roll, please.
Jerry Harris here.
Alan Angel here.
Lee Braylage here.
Janet Prentice here, and Wen is excused. The first thing on our agenda is discussion, or we're going to do old business from last meeting. I nominate Alan Angel to be the co-chair of the Planning Commission.
We actually did that.
I created an amended agenda, so that was already completed. Alan pointed that out to me, and so we
Okay,
amended
because
the
I thought we
agenda.
had done it too.
Yeah,
I
it's
went
no
back
longer.
and looked at the video and we did that.
It's not on the current agenda.
But thank
So
you.
this is our co-chair. Aaron Stout. Aaron Stout.
Help yourself, bud.
If Aaron's not here, we're going to take, we're going to deny it anyway.
Yeah, I'll make a motion, we deny the zone change for AB 1335. It's already been through public hearing, and that's what we would like to do, deny that.
I'll second that.
Vote.
Does anybody have any quick things to say in form of discussion first before we vote?
Do we want to deny it before we look at that actual zoning situation there?
So yeah, that's a good point. At the last meeting, we did discover that there is a bit of a unclear language in the last bullet point of the ordinance. I think we're gonna probably assign somebody today to rewrite that.
Yes, we are. Well, I think it should just be struck.
But the fact of the matter is that the applicant doesn't meet the 10-acre minimum. So.
Because all RV, training cabin, and campground sites should be 10 acres joined together and not spread apart like that. And so we need to change that, and if they should be 10 acres, period.
Total, yeah.
And or more.
I have a problem with 10 acres. I think 10 acres is way too many trailers to have in one place. That's 100 trailers based on how our deal is written. That's 100 trailers. 100
Yeah.
trailers moving in and out daily is more trailers than we want moving in and out of someplace.
Well, that's why we are going to, in the residential area, this is one part of the language we really want to get rid of so that it isn't a bother, like on a main street, it'd be a more appropriate area for it. Or
So I think we can agree that as a separate item, we should relook at the ordinance, the wording itself, right?
Yes.
But it seems to me that based on the way the ordinance is written, that the application
right.
needs to be done. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So I think we have to vote.
Can we have both?
Second.
We seconded already.
So do you want
Vote, yeah.
yea or nay? Do you want to do? The motion is we're going to deny it. So, and I'll
Aye.
agree.
Aye.
Okay.
Could you guys speak
Passes.
up?
Sure.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Wow, hi everybody. I'm sorry, I've got to stand. I don't speak well when I'm sitting down, and I'm deaf in one ear, so. And the second thing we're going to discuss is the point system for rural estate animal allowances. And that's probably why everybody's here, right? Probably.
Yeah.
Okay. This was to be a discussion amongst the Planning Commission. This is not a public hearing. We'll probably have the public hearing in a month when we firm up the language. We have been checking other counties and towns and smaller towns ordinances. When I first moved here, all these lots were sold as horse lots. This was to be a horse town.
Amen.
And I have something, Ben, could you bring up this, please? We would like to make some changes to the point system. The point system was easy. I don't want to do square foot, so many else for square foot because it just gets confusing. So the keeping of fowl for family food production is, yes, you can do that, but not for commercial use. We want to strike that. But you must get a license and pass health inspection at your cost if you're going to sell animal products such as milk, eggs, and things like that. I'd like to just see a business license. Now remember, this is just a skeleton of what we want to start working on. We want your input. You can contact all of us through the town website, and you can contact Marty, and we'll all work with you, because that's what we want to do. We all live here together, so let's all work together. And 11, the animal allowance restrictions. The number of domesticated animals which may be maintained on a property shall be determined on the basis of a point system. And we're striking, no parcel of property shall exceed 100 points per acre. We're adding these definitions. This is what I personally would like to see through my research of other places. Residential is 1 acre through 1.9 acres. That's 100 points per acre. If you live on an RE5, acres to 9.9 and an AG5 to 9.9, you should have 150 points per acre. This gives you a lot more horses. If you live on 10 acres to 49.9 acres in RE or AG zone, you should be allowed 200 points per acre. This gives people a chance if they want more cows, if they want to raise cows, have more horses. They should be able to do that. It's their land, and they should be able to have more. And the types of fowl, number of points per animal, further restrictions. Cows, donkeys, mules, or similar large animals are 50 points each. We could work on that on the larger lots and go down to 25 points each. And I'm having struck, but not to exceed a maximum of 10 large animals per any lot. That's not fair. It's not fair to anyone who's bought large land and wants to work it. I understand that. Miniature horses, sheep, goats, and other similar medium-sized animals less than 36 inches in height, 25 points each. More striking, but not to exceed the maximum of 20 medium animals on any lot, just like the big animals. It's not right. Turkeys, geese, pheasants, and similar sized fowl, 15 points each. But not to, and we're striking, but not to exceed the maximum of 20 medium fowl on any lot. If you want 80 chickens and you got 10 acres, go for it. Just take care of your animals.
Right.
Number 4, chickens, ducks, pigeons, doves, rabbits, or similar small fowl are 5 points each. And we're striking not to exceed 30 small fowl per 5 acres. No roosters are to seize. No rooster is permitted on any lot which is less than 5 acres. I live on 2 acres. I kind of agree with that. Strike this, and I'm striking, and we're having striking, and then only 1 rooster is allowed per 30 chickens on 5 acres.
I have a question about the rooster one. Can I ask a question about the rooster?
Can I finish this first, and then we'll, this is not a public hearing, so,
But I just need more clarification on that.
sure, okay, sure.
Does that include current roosters?
Current roosters?
Yeah.
No, your grandfather did.
Good. Thank you. Don't give totally clear.
My house is too big, and I'm grandfathered in, so my house is too tall. So there is grandfathering in.
Just for the record, the ordinance doesn't say anything about grandfathering in, so we'll take that into
We'll take that
consideration
in.
when we rewrite it, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it currently doesn't. Unfortunately, the way the ordinance was written, it was voted on and
Yeah.
approved, it's all of a sudden just the way it is. So that's why we're having this discussion.
And I understand, I'm from Hawaii, and I lived with a bunch of Filipinos, and they raised roosters for cockfighting, and they started at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I didn't know that.
Well, I'm not cockfighting, I'm just.
Oh, I know you're not, you're raising them. Okay, no roosters permitted on any lot less than 5 acres. And then strike this, and then we're striking then only one rooster is allowed for 30 chickens. Now, one rooster can do 30 chickens, right? Okay, these should read, no exotic animals shall be bred on any lot under 5 acres. I think that is reasonable. And then we want to strike this, the keeping of pigs is not allowed in rural estate zones. I come to find out that hot-bellied pigs are considered a comfort animal for people with PTSD and also a pet. And we do allow pets, but a pot-bellied pig may be allowed as a service animal or pet. However, breeding of pigs is prohibited, period. Don't even ask. Unweaning offspring of residing animals or fowl under 6 months age, we're going to leave all these as they are. We're going down to age, and I want this underlined because I drive around our town and see a lot of animals that aren't cared for. And we can't get the health department out here. I've tried on several occasions for some horses on Lonely, and it made me sick to see them taken over to them, and they be fed. Animals must not be allowed to become a noise or smell nuisance. There are ways to take care of the smell. And please, and this is to be fair to your neighbors, and I mean to their animals, to you. And nuisance complaints shall be filed if your animals are not sheltered, fed, or cleaned up after on a regular basis. And this, like I said, is just the framework of what we want to start. And we're going to be working on this, and we'll probably have a public hearing in a month. So I'd like to find out how many horse owners we have here. Everybody.
So since we're doing a quick poll, how many of you actually live in a rural estate zone?
Now, clarify what that is, please.
5 acres plus.
Well, no, there are, according to the way that the zoning map
1 acre plus.
works, is that, right, an RE can be 1 acre, it can be 5 acres, it can be bigger than that.
Yeah.
That's different than a single-family residential area, which we're not allowed to have farm animals on at all. I think everybody understands that, right? Do you get that? Is that, so, again, how many of you live in a rural estate zone? Raise your hand real high, keep it up there for a second. And how many of you live in a single-family residential? Nobody. Okay, all right. So everybody else has wide open space, right? Okay.
Okay, so does this sound?
I'm sorry. Right.
Yeah, I just call it residential because most of the lots that were sold in phase 1, 2, 3 and are 1, 2, 3 and Gooseberry are all acre lots. Sometimes I bought 2 lots, so they have 2 acre lots. And that's why I look at it as kind of a residential. But you're still allowed, on 1.9 acres, you're still allowed 4 horses.
How many of you just live in have just 1 acre? Those of you who have horses. Okay, so most of it.
So how many points is the horse, 50 points?
Right now it's 50, yeah.
Right now it's
Do
50.
you want to change it to 25?
We may.
That's part of the discussion we need to have.
That's part of the discussion that the planning commission needs to have. But I do want to emphasize, if you want, can I have order, please? We want this meeting to go home or TV. But we want to be fair with everybody, non-horse owners and horse owners. I don't own a horse. I don't own dogs. But everybody around me does. And I don't care. I build a fence. And that has solved that problem. But for residential up to 2 acres, 100 points per acre. That's 200 points for 2 acres. That's for 4 horses.
That's 8 horses.
So it seems to me that there are a couple of issues that need to be addressed. One is the actual quantity of livestock itself, and that could be anything from just other things based on the way the ordinance reads. And the other thing that it's pretty weak, quite frankly. And when you look at the similar ordinances in other towns, one of the things that the ones where pretty much everybody's happy with it, they're pretty specific about what nuisance means. And I'm sure those of us who this isn't me, but if I happen to live in a 1 acre lot next to somebody with, it doesn't matter whether they have 1 or 4 horses, if their manure piles up and in the summer their flies are in my kitchen, I'm not going to be too thrilled about that. And I'm pretty sure that's one of the undercurrents that we're dealing with here. And so I just want to make sure that as a commission, one of the things we do is not just tinker with the quantity, but we get more specific about the care of the results of these animals. And truth be told, I'm not a big fan of driving through town in 110-degree heat and seeing no shelter for these animals either. And so that's not very well addressed either in this ordinance. And I think if we're going to tackle this, we should tackle it.
Yeah, that's why.
Take on some of the challenging issues, and unfortunately, we're probably not going to please everybody. But the goal here is to try to get these ordinances to read in such a way that they're really clear and that they're the result of input from the town.
Horse manure is what grows us the food, or manure is what grows us the food.
This isn't I really would.
Okay.
We're going to do away, at least at the planning commission, we're not going to have, we just can't have discussions when it's not a discussion. We have to be able to talk amongst ourselves. Because legally, we have to have these meetings with you watching and listening, and we're happy to do it. But we have to be able to have our discussions, and you just listen in. And there'll be time for public comment in every meeting, but discussions will happen at the actual meetings that are planned for that. And I believe me, we'll have one of those for this. There'll be plenty of time. So does that sound good? I mean,
yeah. Well, this is one thing that I was very concerned about was the shelter feeding and cleaning.
Yeah, I think we just need to be a little bit more specific about.
I think that's what everybody's concerned about is the actual doing the maintenance for your animals so that you're not causing a problem for somebody else.
Yeah.
And then also caring for those animals in the proper way so they're not being taken off of best friends to be rehabbed.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that I don't know for sure because I wasn't, I was living in Apple Valley, but I wasn't at any of the meetings where this new ordinance was discussed. And I think the attempt was to try to make sure that nuisances were kept to a minimum, right? I mean, everybody wants to be able to live the way they want to live without being put off by their neighbors.
Well, I think anybody that has an acre piece of property that are people that are riding, they will have 2 horses, but most often, they wind up with a horse that is not rideable anymore, and they get another horse.
Yeah.
And they're not going to put the horse down that
So they
isn't
have to.
rideable. They are going to keep it and take care of it. And because they're like a member of the family when you have, you know, a horse for a long time.
Well, and that,
And that's why 3 horses on an acre makes more sense than 2.
Well, maybe that's why we go down to 25, 20 for the larger, especially horses. Cows, no. I'd like to
do
see
like
cows
that.
at 50.
yeah, I
What
do
does
like
that, you know, what does that, well, if you're on an acre, you're probably not gonna have much in the way of cows, but say you were raising a beef for food
Yeah,
and still had 2 or 3 horses,
Yeah.
where are you then?
Yeah, you're running afoul of yours.
You know, and the people that are running cattle around here have, you know, they have 100 head of cattle out there running, and they might wind up being over the number you consider for their area. We have to look
well,
at
that's why I
that.
think we should go down maybe on the point. You know, especially if somebody is running cattle. You know, like I know Frank Ballard really well, and he runs a lot of cattle.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't become part of the town, I understand why. And, but
His are
we
in a
can,
small,
you know, work with,
his are in a small area.
yes, his
He
other.
he doesn't have any manure problem because he doesn't feed his cows, so there's no manure.
See, that's kind of what we wanna get away from is neglected animals.
Right.
Could you guys speak up? We can't hear back here.
Okay, that's why I would stay, sit there that way.
Yeah, I mean, the guys too, we can't hear what they're saying.
We need microphones.
Microphone or something there.
Yeah, we'll try to project.
Speak in your waiter voice.
Yeah.
I used to be a waiter, so I'll speak in my waiter's voice. But on an acre, I would like to keep the point set at 100. Because there's not enough room for more than 2 horses on an acre, realistically. But, and
Well,
Jerry.
I think it depends on,
if you don't have a huge house.
but if it depends on the structures available to the horse.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, like Jerry just said, it's pretty difficult for people to maintain just 2 horses.
Well, I know my neighbor across the street's like that. She has 3, and which is great. And they came from a system up in Salt Lake. It was on the point system also. And
I like the point system. I like that
I
because it
do
doesn't
too.
favor any one
It's
animal over
simple.
another.
It's
Yeah,
simple.
absolutely.
And we can change the points to, you know, the horses are 25 points, but cows are, I'd like to keep cows at 50. They produce a lot more manure, and people don't clean up after them. But they do clean up after horses.
Well, but again, we can strengthen the nuisance factor in
Yes,
the
we
ordinance.
need to do that.
So, which I think we have to do. I mean, and in fact, I hope at the public meeting discussion that we have about this, people will come not just with their personal thoughts about how many animals they want to have, which is important, but I hope people come with ideas about how we can make sure that we're being friendly to our neighbors. Because it's pretty clear here that probably more people either have or want to have these large animals than not. But that shouldn't mean that the person in the 1 acre next to you that's right on your property line should have to have a house full of flies.
Right.
I just don't think anybody wants that, actually. And so I hope we can have ideas at the public discussion about, and again, one of the things that's fascinating to me is in a little town, we're trying to get ourselves to the point where we have our big britches on, you know, we're actually a town now, and we have these laws, and people need to follow them. The problem where it really gets difficult is that when we create an ordinance that is really difficult to enforce, and I think that's one of the situations we're in here. First of all, how many people knew that this was a new ordinance? Probably few, right? Until the last few days, right? So we need to be really good about communicating them, but we also need to make sure that they're reasonable such that they can be enforced.
Well, that was the problem before, is they were just too restrictive. you know, and this, when Ted Googler sold these lots, they were horse lots, and it's what this town was always supposed to be, was horse area, because it's a beautiful place.
So I think we're not here to turn this into a city like, you know, like St. George. This is a rural country area, and that's why most people live here.
Yeah, that's right.
And we're not trying to change it to look like Los Angeles.
Oh, gosh, no, that's why most of us left and moved up here. But I think that we should, get together. Alan, you and I can get together and we can work on some of the language on this.
Sure.
I really would like to do that. And then,
Maybe we should have a work meeting and review containers at the same time.
there you go.
That would be
That would
great.
be an
We're
excellent
all
idea.
working on
Because
it.
that's another thing we have to get some language.
Okay, why don't we
We're
do,
all in this.
why don't we schedule a work meeting? When would be the best for, I'm my own boss, so I can take a day off.
I don't have my calendar right. Can we do this can we do an email?
Yeah, we
chain
can
where we
do
get
Yes,
everything
we'll do
scheduled?
it
Let's do it
email.
next, between now and the next meeting.
Okay, we're gonna do a work meeting. We're gonna firm this up. How many people would like to see 25 points for horses? Okay.
By a show of hands, would you be interested in, providing input via some kind of formal, like a survey or something like that on
Yeah.
this? So we can get
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
See if we can get something like that put together. My preference would be to ask you just a very few handful of questions where we give you the answer and give you ample opportunity to write your stream of consciousness thoughts. I think we've gotten a few emails about this ahead of this meeting, and I for one like to have it all in one document. So I'll ask maybe Ben to put together much like we did for the containers.
Can I have you
a survey where
clarify
you can get your input.
for this, the input, are we talking the zoning, is it per acre or per lot? Because there's a lot of people that have 2-acre lots, 3-acre lots.
Well, we're just gonna ask you very pertinent questions.
Okay,
And,
Yeah, so I think the answer to your question is yes. We're going to ask you about all that. The way the zoning works right now is that we just described there's rural estates, which is pretty much what's affected by this, and then that varies based on size. And I think it does make sense to have some standard of point system based on the amount of the size of your acreage. I mean, we obviously can't just make it a free-for-all and put 100 horses on 1 acre. That's no good. So,
Real quick, I like the idea that we're gonna ask the residents.
sure.
That's something that Marty started, and I love that about Marty. The fact that he's actually asking our input on things. Over the last couple of years, we've had a number of people coming and going right where you guys are sitting. And they sit down with their idea that 1 or 2 people came to them about, and they blast it out and we get the ordinances.
Yeah.
You guys aren't representing the town that way, you're representing your own feelings.
No,
So the fact that we're asking.
Richard, that's not gonna happen again. This is.
That's what I'm saying, I like that.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
We're a
We
town.
appreciate you acknowledging that. That's something that,
I think before we add any more new ones.
much like this, we're not going to do it anymore.
Add.
We're not going to do this
Or more
anymore.
questions.
And we're not going to have decisions that we just make based on our personal.
Right, good. Because
Okay.
we all.
Now, that
live-
doesn't mean that every ordinance that's written is going to be written so that you all love it, right? 'Cause this town is just like the rest of the country, right? Not all.
We got rules.
Yeah. But we do want input, definitely. And I think our goal here is again to make sure that what I don't want to see happen, and I don't think anybody's asking for this, but I'm really conscious of making sure we don't do this. When I was asked to be on the planning commission, the first thing I did was dig into the legalities of what can we and can't we do. And I've done lots of boards and committees and that kind of stuff, and I've never done one for government where you have to do everything out in the open. And that's good, but I want to make sure that everything we do out in the open is we're doing legally.
And transparently.
among those things that we have to do, I think, legally, is have those public meetings where we get input from people. Everybody gets to say their say, for sure. And we, as a commission, are gonna make sure that input,
Gets put into them.
that we take that into consideration. It's not just lip service from our perspective.
Dan?
Can I ask if you have horses?
I do.
Do the rest of you have horses?
But by the way, I'm not affected, I have more acreage, so I don't.
My question precedes the second question. I heard her say earlier that she would like to see the cows remain at 50 points instead of 25 points because they make more manure. Historically, cows eat less than horses do. They're a hell of a lot cheaper to feed than horses, I assure you. But I'd like you to make sure that you understand the perspective and the reason why we have horses. While a lot of people ride just for the recreation of it, if you take the Cannons, for example, you take my wife's family, for example, our families run over 1,000 head of cows. It takes, I'm a big guy, it takes me 2, sometimes 3 horses when we go gather cows up. So the purpose of having horses isn't to have an ornament in the backyard that you put money in the front and money out the back.
Sure.
There is a purpose for having some of these animals. And when you talk about trying to come up with a point system, a sheltering system, a feeding system, I understand, I mean, our horses are $20,000. We're not neglecting our horses in any way whatsoever. But for you, I just want you to make sure you understand why we have animals and what the purpose of them are before, as you use that as a guideline to determine
And by the way,
how this functions.
Much like, what Janet was going through just now, the stuff that was up on the screen and the stuff that she wants changed or added was written in red. Those are her personal thoughts. And that's input into what will become a new ordinance, but that's by no means a new ordinance.
This isn't set in stone. Like I said, this is framework. And we get your input, and then we can firm up this framework. And we're gonna have a work meeting. And all of us will get together and work on this problem, just as we'll work on the containers. Because the people in Apple Valley want containers, so we gotta work on that.
Can we make this the very last, because we're doing what we do not want to do. We have to be able to have discussions without everybody, but one last.
I was just gonna make one suggestion on the discussion. You guys are kind of talking like, with the point system, it kind of almost acts like it's a 2-person household. Like 2, maybe 3 horses, you don't retire one and have 2 like husband and wife. There's a lot of us young families like me, I have 6 kids. I can't put 6 kids on 2 horses. You know what I mean? And so I just something to think about in your discussion.
That's great to hear, yeah, I appreciate
Stuff
that.
like
And
that,
it's that kind of input that we definitely want to get. I'd like to collect it all as much as you can, and by all means, tell people that aren't here. We'll make sure a survey gets publicized widely. But I want to make sure that it's not just the people that come to the meetings, and not just people that have horses or are angry at the guy next to them who's got horses and they don't want. I don't want to get input just from the people who really care. We want to get representation of the town.
Yeah, we need all of you to input, because when we did the container survey, we didn't get near the response that we were hoping for. And we'd really like to hear from all of you. And then I'd like to have, when we do the work meeting, and we'll figure that out through email.
Sure.
But after we have the work meeting, can the survey go out in the water bills?
Yeah, that's been an effective way to do it.
Okay. And then we'll also post it on Facebook, which seems to be a really good place, and that's where most people are here. And
How about the mailboxes? That's where we use it.
Yeah, that's a good spot.
that's a good spot too. But we'll make sure that they're up, and then you can email any of us. Please feel free to do that.
Yeah, I'd love to get emails, but for this particular topic, if you fill out the survey, then we get everything in one place. It's just a lot easier for us to make sense.
We do the survey,
And
then we
please
have the
tell,
work
I'd like to
meeting.
see this room be standing room only if people care that much about it when we have the public meeting.
Yeah.
I'd like to do the survey first, so we can maybe get some draft language for people to respond to. But at least for me personally, I think whatever drafting we do will be then influenced by further input. I don't want you to think that if we come with draft language to the public meeting, that that's locked down. We're just gonna let you talk and not listen to you. We're gonna wanna listen to people too. And the other thing I was gonna say earlier, I forgot, I lost my train of thought, was I wanna make sure too that these ordinances are so well written and so easy to enforce and understand that we never find ourselves in a situation where somebody has a problem with an ordinance and we have to have a discussion about changing it. That's no way to run a town. You know, if you don't like it, great, live with it until it comes around again. But what I don't want to see is that code enforcement becomes so difficult just for one person, say, and so all of a sudden we as a commission have to change an ordinance. That's just no, if that becomes the case, then we wrote a bad ordinance, then the ordinance was bad to begin with. And I just don't want to see that. That's no way to.
And this one passed the town council.
Right.
And it was wrong when we did it. It was too restrictive. And also, the mayor understands that it was too restrictive. And they passed it. So we all know we made an error. And we're owning up to that error. And that's why we want to do the survey. We'll get a survey to you, then we'll do a work meeting and firm up the language, and then we'll have a schedule a public hearing. Is that going to be okay with everybody?
Nobody wants
No, I'd just like to say too, I really appreciate a full room. It's certainly a lot nicer than looking at an empty chair and trying to figure out what to do.
Maybe you can get a bigger space and publicize that you're gonna have a bigger space for the public meeting with this,
Yeah, I think so. Like the last time we had a large meeting, we
did
actually
it
moved
in
it
the
over
bag.
into the, yeah. If we have that many people, I think we'll definitely make space for it.
We'll make space, yeah.
Okay, so close discussion on this?
I move we close discussion on the ordinances as marked.
Vote? Aye. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming. We really appreciate it.
Got him adjourned.
No. We have training.
We're not the meeting not over.
Oh, it's not? Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I just happened to get the information from my neighbor. I have a couple of horses, so I wanted to make sure that you have my information, either my email address or Facebook.
Okay, we're not done with our meeting
Okay.
yet. So, but all of you that came for the horse information, we thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate your input. But, you can go, you can stay, we got training we have to do, and, we're doing discussion and possible action on shipping containers, and we're gonna table that for right now, because we're gonna do the work meeting at the same time as for the horses. Okay? So thank you, everybody, for coming. I'd like to make a motion that we table, the action on the shipping containers for, until our work meeting.
I'll second.
Vote?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now we have training. Don't we, Ben?
We do.
Yes, I printed it out.
Oh, okay. I heard it.
While you're pulling that up, can we skip to the next item and look at the minutes real quick?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes for January 8th, 2020.
I second it.
Vote?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so the last thing is this training.
Okay, if you're gonna talk, can you go outside? We got training that we have to do. And we'll talk, yeah. I understand your, I really do.
I just wanted to apologize because I think I'm at the heart of our business.
I know you are, but that's okay.
That's what Jerry accused me of. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dale. $100,000 worth of horses out there.
No problem.
Yeah, I mean, you should have. I think he knew.
Yeah, so this is land use training, provided by the Land Use Academy of Utah. See how the audio is.
Richard. Thank you. Did you get a cookie?
It is, yeah.
No, I will send it on.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Changes are favorable to being able to do something.
Oh, for sure, yeah, I know, I think the only change.
Thanks, Janet, very good.
Is to sheer up the language.
Well, we do have to change the language.
I'm not sure, but I don't
We sure are, we said that, now go have a seat, young man. We're in the middle of a discussion here.
Have a cookie.
Then have the public hearing.
Yeah, that's the order in which we were
Have a
intended
cookie.
to go.
Did we want to continue some other discussion, or should we go ahead and move forward?
No, let's do that, let's do.
Because we want to do the survey and then we're going to schedule a work meeting.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you interested in creating a general plan?
Yes.
Are you completely not interested in making a general plan, but you know you have to, according to state law? Do you even know what a general plan is? General plans are awesome. Maybe you just don't know it yet. I'm going to tell you all about a general plan.
General plan? Did somebody say general plan? I'm General Howard Plan, here at your service.
Okay. Long before a building is built, there's a plan, a blueprint, if you will. I mean, you wouldn't start construction without one, right? Are you building a home for a family of 4 or a family of 6? Do you need 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, or 6? Now, as a planner, you wouldn't just stumble along with no plan for your city or town, right? We know we're going to grow. In fact, Utah is among the fastest growing states in the nation. So how are you going to plan for that growth? Will your city or town go to the north, to the south, the east, or west? Will it continue to spread out? And how far? Or will it increase in density? How will you handle public services, water, sewer, garbage collection, and transportation? If your city doubles in size, will all that traffic continue down existing streets? Or should you consider creating a transportation corridor around the city? And if so, will that corridor separate neighborhoods and create different environments within those neighborhoods, the way the interstate system used to do?
In fact, the great state of Utah says you must be prepared for future and present needs, and that requires a general plan.
Thank you so much. Look, the people driving by in these cars know exactly where they're intending to go. In the same way, a general plan tries to guide a community into a desired future some 15 to 20 years away. I mean, you wouldn't get in a car and drive somewhere without knowing where you're going to go, right? Why would you be any less careful when building a building or developing a city?
Listen up, soldiers. You need LEMA. That's our commander-in-chief. You can make a battle plan with LEMA. You can talk about land use, transportation, housing, agriculture, environment, public services. Let's take these one at a time. First, land use. You'll need your current land use map, then you've got to think about how you use your land now and how you'll use your land in the future. Hear me? Roger that. Strategize for the future, troops.
Actually, he's right. Your community is going to need to address not only current transportation and traffic needs, but also future ones. Where should new roads go? How wide should they be? How can we serve our residents and businesses better? What are our transit needs? What do we want our streets to look like? How do we support a variety of street systems? You'll also be required to estimate the need for additional moderate income housing. The state requires an entire separate study to evaluate the local needs for moderate income housing. It's a good idea to examine housing quality, quantity, and the different types of housing you have. Look at locations in your community for things like higher density housing near transit, senior housing, and workforce housing. If you have a university, do you have enough student housing and homes for families? For the agricultural element of your general plan, you'll need to identify and consider each agriculture protection area.
Remember, it's state law. The community has to consider any agricultural land that has been designated as protection area.
That's right. Most communities will want to discuss the long-term status of agricultural lands.
Will they be developed or retained for future generations?
Correct. You may need to put an environmental element in your general plan. This includes an examination of wetlands, steep slopes, landslide areas, fault lines, high water table areas, vegetation-contaminated soils, creek protection,
Aquifer recharge areas.
That's so right. It's all necessary to know for your community's future. For the public services and facilities element of your plan, you'll assess your community's need for sewer, culinary water, secondary water, and stormwater systems. Outline your community's storage and treatment needs and techniques to reduce the amount of stormwater.
One way to approach this is to use your population projections, which you can get from the state or your association of government. Look at these projections and use them to base your needs for storage and treatment.
And don't forget to assess the need for power, gas, broadband access, police, fire, and education services. You may have areas of your community that need to change, or even areas where you'd like to preserve the character of a neighborhood. If so, you're going to want to include a rehabilitation, redevelopment, and conservation element in your plan. We're talking plans and programs for historic preservation, or ways to redevelop the land, including housing, business, industrial, and public building sites. The economic element of your plan offers an assessment of your current status. What you're trying to do is demonstrate how your local economy is structured and performing. What needs to change? How can you plan both physically and financially to positively grow the community?
Cha-ching! And by the way, this effort can keep taxes lower in your community.
I was going to say that. Finally, you're going to want to look at your community as part of a greater region and see what trends are occurring there, especially regarding the regional transportation plan or demographic and economic changes that may influence the future. Now, how do you make all this happen? Well, the Planning Commission works on all these elements and holds many community meetings for input. Then they hold a public hearing and send a final recommendation to the city or county council. The council then gives their input and takes a vote on the plan. But don't forget the vision, or rather, visions. The Wasatch Choice for 2040 Blueprint suggests a regional vision for the Wasatch Front. It promotes transit and road connections to town centers. A regional transportation plan for high-capacity roads is coordinated with that big vision. Outside the Wasatch Front, each area creates its own vision. And eventually, all areas in Utah will have a defined vision as part of the statewide effort called Your Utah, Your Future. It is your Utah and your future. It's everyone's future. And that's why a consensus-based community vision is also a critical part of this process. As all of the elements come together, you're creating a vision for the future under the guidelines of LUTMA, the Land Use Development Management Act, and your own zoning ordinances. The process helps define where the community needs to go and what the community wants to be. The vision you create in your general plan becomes a guiding statement that provides a standard for making future decisions about land use. I like to think of it as a practical vision for the future. What do you want your community to be? And how can you get there?
Recommendations for implementing any and all portions of the general plan elements are essential for the plan to be an effective document. This may be the most important part of the plan, the action plan, troops, so don't forget it. Carry on.
I think I will. Practical, implementable strategies for each of the elements you discuss in your general plan may be difficult to generate, but without them, your community won't have adequate direction to help it achieve its goals for the future. There are many more resources on this website to help you start your journey in creating your plan. So go, be awesome. Define your collective future with your general plan.
Did somebody say general plan?
a start.
Boy, 15-year-old start.
Well, it was paid for by professionals. It's a good start, a good place.
No, I'm not suggesting it's not a good start, but
Yeah.
it's kind of, it's actually, don't tell them this, but I don't think we're legal. I think
We're not.
I think our general plan has to be updated at least every 5 years, so
Well,
we gotta get busy.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second?
vote?
Aye?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. And that wasn't bad length for a meeting.
Huh?
That wasn't a bad length for a meeting for all those people.
No.
We're doing good.
I didn't think I'd get home before daybreak. Oh, we haven't had,
No, we're
we haven't had
changing.
the fun here.
We're changing that. That's not good.
I don't care, everybody.
Oh, right. But
Yeah, we'll make sure.
I don't mean to interrupt. That's not your co-chair.
Hey, listen, I'm just trying to make sure that people understand it's a new day in town, we're not gonna have a meeting.
Too many people got up and spoke.
I know, we're gonna try to reduce it every chance we have, we'll make less and less of that.
We just have to probably remind them a little before the meeting, a little bit more. This is not a public comment meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it went a lot faster than I thought
Hey,
it would.
Debbie, you can see it? Huh? You can see it?
Marty can have this gal back.
I know.
Have fun on your way out. Have fun on your way out.
Hey, see ya. This mouse doesn't seem to be working, I can't turn the, ah, there it goes, oh, good.
He's a technical advisor, what's the code?
Yeah.